Terry has broken ribs. I did see the hit. Terry did not know his name. I asked Terry what his name was, and he did not know. Scott, it scared the hell out of me. Is that what you typed?
True.
And that was on or around the day of the crash, or after the crash?
That was a little bit after, a few days after the crash.
Okay. Then at the bottom of page 7, you have another comment. Do you see that?
Yeah, yes, I do.
And you typed, Scott, thanks for the humor. I got it when you were trying to make light of the whole thing. You guys did not see what I did see. No need to say you're sorry. You typed that, correct?
Yes, I did.
Then the final page, page 8 of 9. And under your name it says, you cannot make this up. Gwyneth took out Terry last week. Last Saturday, her son broke his arm skiing at Park City. Gwyneth was staying at the Montage. She took her plane out of Million Airport. I wish I did know so many people. What makes me mad is that Gwyneth took out Terry and just took off. Is that what you typed that?
Yes,
that
it
was
is.
the week after the crash?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and except for the irrelevant stuff at the end on page 9, that's all I have. Who is Very T in Exhibit 44? Plaintiff's exhibit. Terry T is mentioned. Do you remember?
I'm not sure who Very T is.
Could it be Terry Sanderson?
Sustained.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you look at the Very T comments and see if it...
Question right now. Go ahead and ask your next question.
Yeah. That's right. Craig, would you go to page 2 of this Exhibit 44? Okay. On the left it says Very T, event organizer. Do you see
Yes.
that?
Yes, I do.
And also 2 over it says Kurt L, event organizer, 4 shared groups. You see that?
Yes, I do.
Was Kurt L at the meetup group at Deer Valley on the day of the crash?
Yeah, Kurt was the one who organized that day.
Okay. Go back to the left and look at Very T. Are you able to recognize the photo above Very T?
It looks like Terry, and Terry was the one who organized the meetup groups up at Alta.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Bueller. Mr. Egan?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Ramon, good to see you again. I have a couple questions from the defense. So the first would be, at the start of this page, and I haven't used this Elmo projector before, so give me a second. Do you see that on page 2. Got it, thank you. I have to press focus. Okay, there you are. So you see that there's some photos there at the bottom of the page.
Yes.
And do you recognize the photo there of the ski patroller?
Yes,
Was that Whitney Smith,
I believe so.
the ski patroller who responded to Mr. Sanderson on the hill
Yes.
and cared for him during the urgent care or the first aid clinic visit that he had there on the ski hill?
Yes.
And I do not see any videos there. Were there any, to your memory, GoPro or other videos posted on this webpage?
No.
And then, and I believe you're unaware of any GoPro footage at all. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then if you go to page, let's match it up with mine here, page 7. Actually, your name is cut off at the top there, so if you look back at page 6, can you see that it shows your name and then goes on to page 7 where there's, at the very top there, a note that you wrote. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and in that note, you write, Terry did not know his name. I asked Terry what his name was, and he did not know. But I believe you've told the jury last week that he did remember his name.
He had to really think hard about it. It took like 4 or 5 seconds for him to remember his name.
But that's not what you wrote here. You wrote here, Terry did not know his name.
When I first asked him, he didn't know his name. He had to really think about it.
I asked Terry what his name was, and he did not know.
Yeah, he when I asked him, he didn't know his name, and then he just took some time to kind of just think about it, and then after about 4 or 5 seconds, he just said, Terry.
Okay. So what you wrote here is not what you told the jury last week. Is that fair to say?
Could you please repeat that?
Just here in your note, you do not say that he did later remember his name. You just say he didn't remember it all. And as I understand it, that was different than what you told the jury last week. Is that correct?
Yes. When I basically was talking about this, I didn't go into much detail, on this. I was just making a point that he was having a hard time knowing what his name was.
Okay, so let's go to this last page, well, I guess there's a kind of blank page at the end, but page 8, the last page with your comments on it. Do you see up there at the top another one of your comments?
James, you can expand that.
Okay.
You can zoom if you want.
Yeah, that is hard to see.
No, just that focus.
I'm learning old technology. I appreciate this. Thank you. Okay, so in this comment that you wrote, correct, this top comment is yours, Mr. Ramon?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and in this comment you wrote, Gwyneth took out Terry last week. Last Saturday, her son broke his arm skiing at Park City. How did you know that?
There's a lady I know that works at works at Snowbird and Deer Valley. She works up at the Montage, or Deer Valley, and she told me.
Okay. And then Gwyneth was staying at the Montage. How did you know that?
That's what she told me.
And why were you talking to her about Gwyneth?
She knew what happened, and then she told me that what happened.
Sorry, that's not clear to me. So she knew what happened?
She knew that that Gwyneth took out Terry, and so then when I saw her, she told me what happened. I didn't ask her about it. She just told me that's what happened.
But she wasn't there at the collision, right?
No, she just worked up at the hotel.
So how would she have any knowledge of it?
I have no idea.
She took her plane out of Millionaire Airport. How did you know about Miss Gwyneth or with Miss Paltrow's travels?
One of my best friends, he works at a Millionaire, and that's where a lot of the private jets, the charter jets, that's where they fly into that part of the airport.
It sounds to me like you were talking to a lot of people about Gwyneth Paltrow during this time. Is that correct?
No, my best friend, he knew what happened, and he's the one who told me.
So you didn't tell these people what happened, even though you were the one at the collision site?
Yeah, I told my friend what happened, yes.
Okay. So you were telling people about this accident,
Yes, I've told people about it.
and then they were telling you things they knew about Miss Paltrow, that at least they claimed to know about Miss Paltrow?
Yes,
But they could be mistaken, is that correct?
yes.
So if Miss Paltrow's son didn't in fact break his arm while skiing, you wouldn't dispute that. You wouldn't have any way to dispute that, correct?
I have no idea. That's just what I was told.
Let me go back. I just have, I think, one more question for you. So if you were to look at page, let's go to page 7. Those comments that I believe you've connected to Terry Sanderson, those ones in the middle of the page, you can read them to yourself. But my question is, given that you've described him as being knocked out cold in other comments here, I wanted to ask you whether you found Terry to be articulate in his posts and comments on this page following his injury.
Sustained as to vagueness, if you could point out something.
Okay. So maybe it's better to go. These are kind of difficult because they don't have dates on each comment, correct? They just show, for example, let's go to this one. This one at the bottom, you see on Very Terry's, or Very T's comment, it says 2,584 days ago, correct?
Yes, I see that.
Okay, and
James, that's from Saturday, by the way.
okay, yeah, I don't know that. So I'm asking Mr. Ramon, do you know when these comments were made? Was this on the day of the accident when he says you organized a perfect day?
I don't see where it says you organized I don't see where does it say that you organized a perfect day?
It's on page 6, the third comment down.
While he's looking at that, would counsel approach, please?
So, Mr. Ramon, this comment I'm pointing you to on page 6 says, it's under Very T. Yes, Kurt, you organized a perfect day for skiing. Thank you. That's true, Scott. I still have my wheels. It was nice to get to know you a bit today. Do you know whether that was written on the day of the accident?
I'm not sure if it was or not.
Would it surprise you that Mr. Sanderson was writing articulate notes like this after being knocked out and unconscious for 2 minutes?
It doesn't sound that articulate to me, but
Okay, that's all I have. Thanks.
Mr. Bueller?
Craig, could you look at page 6 again? And in the middle under very T, do you see that where it says, yes, Kurt, you organized a perfect day?
yes, I do.
And then look at the number of days it is. Is it 2,584?
Yes, it is.
And then your comment below that. It says 2,583 days ago.
Yes,
So those comments were made on different days.
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any follow-up, Mr. Egan? Okay, you may step down, Mr. Ramon.
Okay, thank you.
You still remain subject to the orders of the court until the case is over or you're released. So thank you.
Thank you. What should I do with this?
Leave it right there. Plaintiff, you may call your next witness. Thank you for coming.
Plaintiff's called. Mr. Terry Sanderson.
Hi. Please raise your right hand. Okay. Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give in the case now before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, absolutely.
Thank you. Have a seat.
Good morning, sir.
Sorry, I want you to get comfortable and speak into the mic, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Could you state and spell your name for the record, please?
Yes. My name is Terry, Terry, Howard, Howard, Sanderson, Sanderson.
Thank you. Now, Terry, this is the 5th day of trial. We started last Tuesday. You weren't here much last week, were you?
Not at all.
In the courtroom. Were you in the courthouse?
Yes, definitely.
Terry, did you want to be here the last 4 days, last week, inside the courtroom?
I love spending time with my daughters and have them hear what they had to say, but in this case, I didn't want to be here because I wanted them to speak totally freely and without the discomfort of being in my presence if they had something to say.
Is that why you weren't here?
Absolutely, yes.
We're going to cut to the chase on a lot of things because I made counsel a promise that I would have you in less than an hour.
Wow.
And so I'm going to be true to my word here. It's 10 o'clock. We'll be done before 11. Okay? I want to talk about skiing. Tell the jury about your ski experience. What type of skier were you?
At that time, or do you want some background?
We don't need a whole lot of background.
Okay.
Back in 2016, what type of skier were you?
I was advanced intermediate. There was no places I would go except serious bumps, narrow little gulches, and I didn't do any big jumps. So other than that, I would go just about anywhere.
Okay. How often would you ski?
2 to 3 times per week.
Okay. For how many years?
Well, I started 37 years ago. It was a winter sport for my family. We lived at high elevation.
Okay. And in all of your years, other than the ski collision with Ms. Paltrow, have you ever been in another ski accident?
Never.
Have you ever skied with the ski patrol?
As a matter of fact, I had the good fortune. I learned to ski from a family that owned a ski resort. They were relation, and they would come out to Snowbird, and they were, I think, it was a whole family-run operation with 8 children, and so they were ski patrollers and they were instructors, and I had the very best of company every winter for a week when the kids were out of school. And then I had the good fortune of having a Lions Club friend, Scott, who's still a dear friend, that lives up in Spokane, and he was a ski patroller for Targhee. And he said, Terry, come up with me, on this weekend. And I said, I'll slow you down. And he said, you know what? Just follow me and do what I do. And that's what I did. And I had the good fortune of spending a lot of time with Scott and seeing and observing what ski patrols do and how they calm people down and reassure them they're going to be okay. So I really appreciated that and experience.
So it sounds like you've skied at Snowbird, skied at Targhee. Had you ever skied at Deer Valley on the day of the collision?
No.
That was your first time ever skiing at Deer Valley?
It was.
Okay. Let's talk about that day. Couple of preliminary things. I asked Ms. Paltrow on Friday how tall she was. How tall are you?
I think I'm now 5'5".
Okay. And what was your weight at the time of the collision?
Well, in the VA, you don't take anything off. Whatever you walk in with, your coats, heavy coats in wintertime, boots, wallets.
I give that excuse too when I how much did you weigh about?
Fully dressed, I was, or undressed, probably 63, 62 pounds, 163, 162.
Okay, all right. So the jury's heard about meetup groups. What is a meetup group?
A meetup group was just a lifesaver for me, being new to this area. Hard to accumulate friends, and so when a fellow that I was on a hike with, a new fellow, said, have you heard of meetup? And I hadn't. So he says, look it up and sign up. And I did, and it was a wonderful organization of groups of people where you had a shared interest, whether it was dancing or concerts or skiing. And so I signed up and joined some groups, and it was really a life changer.
Okay, so my understanding is the day of this ski collision, you were with kind of a group of people in the meetup group. Is that fair?
That's right.
All right. Did the group have a plan? I mean, were you the organizer of that meetup group that day?
No, I was not. I'd asked Kurt to take that over because I planned on being gone that day, and Kirk organized that.
Okay. It sounds like obviously you weren't gone that day. You ended up being able to make it.
I came back a little early from wherever I was and just said, oh, I'm going to go ski today. And I happened to see on the list that day also was a lady that I had met when I first moved here, and she happened to be a ski instructor at Canyons, but she had been at Deer Valley as well. And so I called and said, Debbie, I'm going to go. I'll pick you up. So I picked her up at Kimball Junction on the way and went there with her and dropped her off with the skis. And we met the group, and I asked her if it'd be okay if she let our group out because she's very familiar with Deer Valley. And so she said yes and gave us the rules of the road. Would you like to hear that?
So the meetup group, you guys kind of ski all together-ish?
Well, and this skiing meetup group is unusual. It's like herding cats. You've got those of just want to go, and they kind of know who one another is, and so they go ahead and group up, and sometimes I wind up skiing with the beginners and getting them started and making them comfortable. And so they don't stay together well. We meet, usually we'll say, let's meet at Alps at 1:30, and so that's what we do.
Okay, so you mentioned we set forth the rules of the road for that day. What were the rules of the road that day?
Well, the only rules of the road, we are pretty familiar with the rules of the road, so we don't go over that at the time. But Debbie just said, we're going to start down Bandana because that's how we'll get to the blacks of really good skiing. So our group knew that's where we're headed. And she said, whatever you do on Bandana, do not go down the middle of the run.
Why
it's
not?
Packed and crowded with people. She said, go down the edges. She said, it'll be clear. And so when I came over the edge of the hill, there were heads bobbing in the middle. It was just compacted with little heads and big tall heads, and I just diagonaled. I went straight over to the right edge of that run.
And is that where you stayed prior to the collision?
I did. I stayed there the whole time because it was wide open.
So you were over to the right side to avoid the people. Did it have anything to do with your vision? There's been a lot of discussion about your right eye problem.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But skiing on the right side of the run, did that have anything to do with your right eye?
Yeah, maybe that's one of the things, yes.
Okay. We'll talk about your vision in just a couple minutes, but
Sure.
I want to focus on the collision right now. Craig Ramone, he just testified.
Oh, yes.
You saw him. He also testified last week. How well did you know Craig at the time back February 2016?
He was one of maybe an average of 15 people, 10 or 15 people that would come, so I shared his company during those times. And I knew him only as being an amazing skier, strong skier, and knew that. And I appreciated the fact he tended to like to follow the group and be behind as the protector, because he brought a lady that was a person I knew that was his neighbor. So he would bring her up and ski behind her as a protector. So good guy.
Did you guys hang out a lot before this collision?
Of course, at lunch, we spent time together. And there may be a couple of other occasions where we met with him, but usually there was somebody else there along with us.
Okay.
So I don't remember being exclusive with him.
All right. So, Terry, take the jury through what happened in this ski collision. Take it from, say, getting off of the lift.
Yes, happy to do that. It was really a very nice day for skiing, and I was really looking forward to it. And of course, Deer Valley has amazing groomed runs. Found that out right away. And so I'm starting from when I get off.
When you got off of the ski lift.
Gotcha. So I was on a chair with probably 4 people. I think Joanne, Debbie, Craig, and there could have been another person besides myself. And we had already met and discussed going down the right side of that run, or going down the sides. And so I came over the top of the hill and saw that and headed for the right side, and I'll pick it up there. And everyone just kind of dispersed, some more to the right and more to the left. And I remember looking and seeing no one. And generally, beginner runs, people are afraid of the off-piste, of the off-groomers, and so they stay away from that area where the snow is piled up. And off-piste can be a rough ride. If you have to divert and run out in there, some skiers can't make it through there easy, and it's a lot of bumps. So I went right down the run and started just making nice soft turns and staying within that boundary. It could have been as much as 5 yards wide, but it might have been more like 5 or 6 feet. Can't imagine and can't remember. Lots of room. And so I'm just skiing easy and paying attention, and all of a sudden in front of me is 2 big signs. I've never seen that big of slow down signs. It seemed like they were 4x8, like a 4x8 sheet of plywood size high with great big letters, slow down. I went, whoa, and I'm looking around and the crowd's about the same as me and speed-wise. And
So did you pay attention to the sign?
I did. And then I backed off of whatever I was doing, and then another big sign, like 10 feet away, the same 4x8 sheet up there, big letters. Well, they're serious. Must be lots of merging trails down here. So I just backed off, and again, the skiers were on my left. We were all about the same speed. And I could see down where the edge of the run went, it curved around, a tree line came out a little bit, and the run curled around, and I could see about half of the, I don't know if it's a montage or the Empire, about half of that beautiful building, and it was wide open. There was nothing in front of me, and so I came around that corner, and it takes my breath away to think this is hard, because I don't like going through this scene. I just remember everything was great, and then I heard something I've never heard at a ski resort, and that was a blood-curdling scream. Just, I can't do it. It was, ah, and then, boom. And it was like somebody was out of control and gonna hit a tree and was gonna die. And that's what I had until I was hit.
That's what was going on in your mind.
Overruled?
That's what's going on in your mind when you hear that scream.
That was instantaneous. Oh my gosh, somebody's out of control. And they're really seriously out of control. Not time for a hockey stick. I didn't go think about that, but most people could avoid that, I think. Good skiers.
Okay. And I'll move on.
Okay.
So you
He's overruled.
thank you. So you hear this scream.
Yes.
What happens next?
You know, I got hit in my back so hard, and I'm right at my shoulder blades, and it felt like, and was perfectly centered, and the fists and the poles were right there at the bottom of my shoulder blades. Serious smack. Never been hit that hard, and I'm flying. I'm absolutely flying.
Now, you're not airborne.
Well, all I saw was a whole lot of snow, and I didn't see the sky, but I was flying in that sense. I had no control. And I remember this thinking, okay, you really got to hang on. And then I thought about the crowd on the left, and I thought, I don't know who's wanted over there, and I do not want to get them mixed up in here. And I've heard, that maybe that's not decided about how my ribs really got hurt. I absolutely lurched with what little I could off of my skis a little bit more to the right to make sure nobody over here got involved on my left side. And then it was like the ground's coming up, nobody in front of me, just me going to the ground, and you're falling far further than 90 degrees like you'd fall on a floor. You got that extra, and so it's quite a ways to hit the ground. And I just said, okay, you got to protect your face, and your head, and that's the last thing I remember. It didn't happen. I did glance over and saw, just out of the corner of my eye, I could see, not glance over, but I could see somebody going by, and I'm going, okay, they're safe. Last thing I remember, everything's black.
Did the person who struck you land on top of you?
I wouldn't know that. I absolutely would not know that. I was just surprised. I had no upper body strength enough to be able to catch myself. I had no idea.
Do you remember hitting your head on the ground?
No, that part, nope, that's all gone. I just remember my arms collapsing, and that's the last thing I remember.
What's the next thing you remember?
I'm getting an adrenaline rush here, I guess, living this again. Just being here and present, too.
And let me just stop you really quick. You said you're getting an adrenaline rush. Is this something that you enjoy?
Adrenaline rush? Not this
No.
kind.
Yeah.
Not now.
Okay. All right. So what's the first thing that you remember? Or the next thing that you remember after
Well,
you're
yes.
on the ground?
The first I remember is everything is still black, like I'm unconscious, but it's like my subconscious is going into protection mode, like, you better pay attention here and listen to what's being said to you. And all I could recognize was that someone was really angry at me. And it was a man, and it didn't come out clear in the beginning. I couldn't really hear what he was saying, but I just knew he was mad, and he was right above me, right close to me. And I'm feeling a little afraid, and I tried to move, and I could not move a limb. I couldn't move my head. I couldn't move my body. Nothing was responding. Just this message I was getting. And the next thing, it became a little more clear, and I heard him say, "Do you realize that you weren't skiing under the rules? You hit somebody, you hurt somebody." And just insistent that I was the bad guy. And that's why I said, this has got to be a husband or boyfriend. It's really mad at me, and I sound like a big...
Did you know who